Hello there. You are the person I've been looking for. My name is Miss Ella Fant. I am from the year 1752. I got stuck in this time machine and somehow I ended up at the Bellaire Public Library in 2023. It's awfully strange looking here, but I hear that if we read a book together, then the time travel portal will open back up and I can get back to 1752. Would you like to join me for a story time? Perfect. So this book I picked out is our current president of the United States, Mr. George Washington, and it's called George Washington's Teeth. The Revolutionary War, George hoped would soon be won, but another battle with his teeth had only just begun. George Washington rushed into town. The dentist heard his shout. "Hold still," he said, then gave a yank. A rotten tooth popped out. All that night, George tossed and moaned. Another tooth was sore. But at the dawn, he saddled up and galloped off to war. George reached New York as British ships invaded every port. Preparing for a fierce attack, his soldiers built a fort. Inside, he rubbed his swollen gums with soothing oil of myrrh until a sentinel cried out, "Here come the British, sir." Charging on the field, George thought, "There's something in my mouth." He spat into his handkerchief. Another tooth came out. "This can't be happening," George gasped. "What if someone should see? If word got out I'm losing teeth, my men would laugh at me." While no one looked, he wrote a note his dentist would receive. "Please come," it said. "I'll need your help when I get home on leave." Back at home, George lost more teeth, till he had only 10. "Oh, Martha, dear," George cried, "I fear I'll never eat again." She fed him mush and pickled tripe, but when guests came to dine, he sneaked one of his favorite nuts. Then he only had 9. George crossed the icy Delaware with 9 teeth in his mouth. In that cold and pitchy dark, 2 more teeth came out. Snow fell on George at Valley Forge. His blue coat hung in tatters. By then, he'd only 7 teeth that couldn't even chatter. Yet bravely George led forth his men, coat and pigtail flying. While cannons boomed, he held his jaw and groaned, "I think I'm dying." The redcoats fled. George won the war. When he returned alive, Martha checked for 7 teeth, but counted only 5. He hid the evening of her ball, ashamed his friends would see. That night the dentist came again. George lost another 3. Poor George had 2 teeth in his mouth the day the votes came in. The people had a president but one afraid to grin. A portrait artist came to George. He said, "I know a trick. I'll pad your mouth with cotton balls to puff your sunken lips." George stood up to have a look. He fell back on his fanny. "It doesn't look like me," he roared. "It looks like Martha's granny." He yanked the cotton from his mouth, then gasped, "What have I done?" The cotton held a rotten tooth. Now George had only one. George still had that tooth that night. A knock came at the door. "I've brought false teeth," the dentist called. "Teeth that won't get sore." George put them in, but when he smiled, springs snapped against his tongue. Out flew those teeth. "Ugh!" George shrieked. "They've knocked out my last one." "Oh no," George moaned. "I'm toothless." He kept his mouth shut tight. He couldn't sleep. He paced the floor and prayed with all his might. "If only I had teeth," thought George. He pondered what to do. "Aha!" he cried. "All my old teeth might help make something new." He searched Mount Vernon's bedchambers, the pantry, parlors, halls, through shelves, desks, drawers, and the musty floor of every horse's stall. George found no teeth. Alas, they're gone. A great sob shook his shoulders. Through tears, he peered in one last chest, leaped up and yelled, "My molars!" With plaster and those teeth he found, George poured a sample mold that showed the dentist how to make false teeth George hoped would hold. The dentist took strong hippo tusk and carved a set to size, each tooth secured with screws of gold that lit up George's eyes. Can you guess the story's end? Those new teeth fit just right. And round the ballroom with his friends, George danced all through the night. The end. And I thought I would share this with you since it was included in the book. Here is a picture of George Washington's fake teeth. So that's a very interesting story. I had heard it was a rumor, but now that I've traveled to the future, I know it's true. I can't wait to get home and tell all of my friends. So now I can see the portal is starting to open. I hear that next week, if you're here to visit again, you will be reading The Overground Railroad. So that will be next week. And the craft this week is a George Washington wig. So what you'll do is, parents and guardians, this craft is available for you to come pick up. And the whole kit includes cotton balls, a couple slices of paper that you can roll up, and there's directions included on how to make a George Washington wig. So thank you for joining us, time travelers, and I'm ready to go home. I hope to see you next week.